you like to tell us a little bit about what Crêpes for Change is?
So Crêpes for Change is a social enterprise, and it's also Australia's first non-profit food truck, which we're pretty excited about. And when I say that, that usually just confuses people completely because nobody has any idea what a social enterprise actually is. Having said that, I realise how difficult that is to sort of define because in Australia at least, there's no fixed legal definition, which kind of creates a lot of confusion around the term, but it's still a term that's thrown around heaps. But what I mean and what we use it for in any case is that it's somewhere along the line between a business and a charity, in the sense that in our case, we operate what on the outside looks to be like a traditional food truck. So we're going out to Melbourne's music festivals, markets, and private events and trying to sell our crepes and coffee to make as much revenue as possible. But it's what we do with that revenue at the end that's different. So instead of it all going into my bank account at the end of the day, all of the profits after our business costs go into our cause, which is eliminating youth homelessness in Australia.
What inspired you to have this kind of business?
Quite a few things actually. I suppose social enterprise is really something that's up and coming in Melbourne. Just off the top of my head, one of the biggest ones was street. Obviously that's where the youth homelessness sort of aspect came into it, because I used to study at State Library and then go over to the Melbourne Central Street for a coffee, just because, you know, I'd be studying, just like falling asleep, need a strong coffee, and I got to know the people who worked there. And it turned out that everyone at that time who was working there, who I'd sort of started to become friends with, had at some stage been homeless. And upon realizing that, I kind of realized how many sort of prejudices and preconceptions I had in my mind about homelessness. Because the first thing I thought was, oh, but you guys seem so normal. Then I realized, oh, why wouldn't they be normal? Just because they were homeless at some stage doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. And you know, that sort of started a train of thought where, you know, people really are the victims of their surroundings, you know, for good or for bad. You have a good upbringing, you have a much better chance at having a positive life than if you just happen to be born into bad circumstances.
You mentioned that what you're doing is to then benefit the homeless. So in what way, how do you use the money that you've raised?
At the moment, what I see as the long-term vision for Crêpes for Change is as what's called a profit social enterprise, as opposed to a process social enterprise. So that means we're going to achieve our impact through other organisations, but we're also going to have a secondary channel where we'll be delivering our own impact. Because like I said, we run a food truck, so we go around and we're just making our crepes and coffee, and that's our day-to-day business. And then it's all this money that we have in the Crêpes for Change bank account at the end of the day that we then really have the power to do special things with. The idea is we'll find one that we really want to partner with and work with them to deliver big projects and achieve like a big sort of impact, rather than spreading our money across various organizations. You know, I think it would be better to divert into one place and really see a big return. We've got a training program in the works. So it started off just being a hospitality training program, because that's obviously what we do, hospitality. But then we realized we actually have scope to help people with a lot of other things like interview skills, or how to write a CV, or I don't know, like what to wear to job interviews and things like that. Basically, all the skills that we have developed over the years that we can share with other people. We're not experts in the homelessness space. You know, we can't possibly understand the
complexity.
Yeah, the complexity behind that and the underlying reasons that people are homeless, and you know, the troubles that come from that. Like if you have to live 365 days a year on the street in the cold, like you're probably going to have some underlying, you know, anxiety or like depression potentially, things that, you know, we're just as young people unable to really, I guess, address in a meaningful way. And so we're kind of a bit worried that by biting off more than we can chew, we'll do more harm than good. So we're taking small steps and making sure that it's really within our capacity to, you know, deliver that personal sort of change.
It's just beautiful. You guys are just awesome. I can't believe you're so young, and I mean, I can believe it because young people have incredible potential, but it's just so nice to see young people that are just so passionate, like that are looking for like something to live for, you know, that is not just self-centered.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like what you were saying before, like when you were a teenager, there was just sort of the TV. That's all that was there for getting a message across and finding out about things. But my generation, like I can't remember a time when we didn't have the internet. And so my whole childhood growing up was searching things, finding out stuff, finding out about information. And that sort of meant that today is really the best time for any form of entrepreneurship, because there's so many tools out there that you can really make an idea happen, and you can find a team to get behind you. You can raise money.
Yeah, raising money, it's incredible, right?
Yeah, you can be sitting in your pajamas in your bed and start a business.
Yeah.
Because you can, find out how to find funding and a team and really get it started.
You're only 22 and you created such an incredibly successful enterprise. How did you do it?
I have no idea, really. I mean, that's the truth, and I get asked that question quite a lot. But I think the only thing that makes me different from anybody else who hasn't done that is just that I had this idea and I just followed through on it. I think people in our society were sort of raised with a real fear of failure, and that's sort of at the forefront of our minds. But I kind of thought it's too important not to do, and also even if there's that risk of me failing, there's also the possibility that it might succeed and turn into something amazing that can change the lives of hundreds or thousands of people. So yeah, I just got it started. I went home, had the idea on the bus on the way home from uni, went home and had a chat to my brother and said, hey, do you want to do it? And he said, yeah, sure, but we have no money. And I said, yeah, true. So we started a crowdfunding campaign, and that's how we got it started.
What you said, you just inspired me to keep going with my project and my dream.
Well, that's the goal.
It's so true in our world, like the fear of failure is just so, and also like I think people expect things to happen really quickly, and so the two things combined are a recipe for disaster, like for people becoming really apathic and not trying anything. Yeah. So it's great that you just have to just do it and just keep going.
Like one thing that I've learned from an entrepreneurship point of view along the way is that you really need to flip that mentality and don't think about the failure. Think about it as a learning experience, and don't think of the failure of your organization as a reflection on yourself necessarily.
Do you have a vision? Like, you're only in your 20s, so where do you see when you're in your 50s?
I don't know. I love social enterprise, and I really think social enterprise is the future of business and charity. Because I think, on the business point of view, as consumers, we're becoming more and more conscious of social issues, and we kind of have that expectation that businesses aren't just, ravishing the environment and making heaps and heaps of money without sort of having some sort of social return on that as well. So you have a lot of sort of socially focused businesses popping up, and I think that's really important, and I think that will really become part of the mainstream, and people will start to expect that of all businesses. But I also think charities, especially in the economic climate at the moment, where you kind of never know if you're going to get your next round of funding from the government, you might just end up with no money. Charities really need to, if they want to last, they need to find another way to sort of stay afloat and find some sort of revenue model that will allow them to be self-sufficient and not reliant on donations or, government funding. Yeah. So yeah, I think social enterprise is a great option.